Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Tuesday class where we study Uddhava Gita. So let's do the prayers first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya, ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. Let's open our Uddhava Gita books. We are on chapter 9 and let's look at I think verse number 18. That's where we ended our class last week. And Lord Krishna is talking over here. He's answering Uddhav's question. So verse number 18 says, Shvet dvip patauchitam shuddhe dharma mayomay dharyan shvetatam yatihe sad urme rahito nara. One who fixes his mind on my form as the predominating deity of the mode of goodness, the upholder of religious principles, and the Lord of Shvet Dvij or Dvip, Shvet Dvip, attains a purified form and freedom from the 6 waves of material disturbances: hunger, thirst, decay, death, grief, and illusion. So in this verse, Lord Krishna begins his description of how one can attain the 10 secondary mystic perfections. By engaging in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to the material modes of nature, who is the form of the pure religious principles, and who is the Lord of Shvet Dvip, all of the contamination in one's heart becomes cleansed. The absolute truth is the embodiment of pure goodness, and he is the predominating deity of the mode of goodness. By directing one's heart toward the service of the Lord, one becomes purified, so that the black spot of I am God can no longer cause contamination. So over here, I am God really means abhiman, thinking that I am the Lord of everything and forgetting God. So he says we got to keep on purifying our mind. And that is the purpose of our life. Keep on purifying our mind. Then in next verse he says, Mai akash mani prane manasa ghosham udvahan tatro uplabdha bhuta nam hanso vacha shrinoti asau. If a purified transcendentalist meditates on the extraordinary sound vibrations occurring within me as the personified sky and total life air, then he is able to perceive within the sky the speaking of all living entities. Okay, so because the sound travels in the space. So he says, when you concentrate on that with a pure mind, by meditating on the transcendental sound vibrations, Omkar, one can achieve the mystic perfection of being able to hear the words of the living entities that are spread in the sky. Okay? Nothing ever gets destroyed. They're all there. In the Ekayan worship of the Paramhansas, chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered to be the most important activity. It is a duty of all living entities to receive the transcendental sound vibration of the absolute truth. When all words are aimed at glorifying the Supreme Lord, one becomes able to hear speech originating from liberated living entities far beyond the material universe. Liberated souls can visualize reality simply by the reception of the transcendental sound vibration. That is the power of that sound, the vibrations of Om. Chakshus tvashtari sanyojye tvashtaram api chakshupi mam tatra manasa dhyanan vishwam pashyati durataha. While engaging in meditation on me, as existing within the combined form of the sun and vision, if one can merge one's sight into the sun and the sun into the one's eyes, one can acquire the power to see any distant thing, because we see with the light. And if we can become one with the source of light, there's an intimate relationship between the sun and the process of vision. The two are inseparable and are pervaded by the presence of the Supreme Lord in his all-pervading feature as the super soul. Here, the process for attaining the mystic perfection that enables one to see objects, even though very distant, is being described. While casting one's glance upon Lord Narayan as he is situated within the sun globe, if in reciprocation one receives the auspicious glance of the Lord, one will see through purified vision that the objects of this world are meant for the Lord's enjoyment and not for one's personal sense gratification. Without receiving the Lord's glance, one will see the world as either meant for one's enjoyment or as the object of a dry renunciation. So in these verses, Lord Krishna is giving us the different techniques, the instruments which we have gotten from God, how to use them to connect with Him. Because constantly we are using our eyes just to see the material world, the Maya. But if we can turn it around and absorb these instruments into God Himself, that's the technique He's giving us. Verse number 21. Manomai susanyojye deham tad anuvayuna madharna anubhavena tatra atma yatra vemana. When one completely absorbs his mind in me by meditation and then utilizes the air that carries the mind, he can attain the mystic power that allows him to travel in a moment to anywhere he desires. This verse states that there is an air that adheres to the mind. When one absorbs this air along with the mind in meditation upon the Supreme Lord, his gross material body will be unable to travel at the speed of mind to any destination he desires. When the yogi comes to see everything in relationship to Krishna, then his mind will entertain no other thought than his engagement in devotional service. In that transcendental state, one loses all interest in attempts to enjoy gross material objects. This is the prerequisite for attaining genuine mystic perfections. Okay? Because normally we think that if we have all these powers, we'll be powerful, we'll be well known, we'll have fame. No. The real reason we want it, actually, we don't even want these mystic powers. The mystic powers come to us only when we absorb ourselves into Lord completely. Verse number 22. Yada man upadaya yad yad rupam bubhushati tad tad bhaven manorupam mad yog balam ashraya. When a yogi desires to assume a particular form by applying his mind in that way, that form will appear before him. Such a mystic perfection is possible by meditating upon the inconceivable mystic potency by which I assume various transcendental forms. Because God has many forms, countless names. If the mind desires to assume the form of a demigod, it can do so by transforming itself as the ingredient cause. If the yogi concentrates his mind on the Supreme Lord as prescribed in this verse, he can assume any form he desires. For most people, the mind and heart are one. But because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. This mystic power is called Kam Roop, or the ability to assume any form one desires. The pure devotees absorb their minds in a particular relationship with Lord Krishna, and thus a spiritual body is awarded to them for an eternal life in the Lord's association. In this age, anyone who faithfully chants the holy names of Lord Krishna, follows the regulative principles as instructed by the spiritual master, can attain an eternal form in the supreme abode of the Lord. Okay. See, God assumes many forms, and he says that we can also, with his grace, assume any form too. Verse number 23. पर कायम विशन सिद्ध आत्मनम तत्र भाव्येत पिंडम हित्वा विषेत प्राणा वायुभूता षड अंगिरिवत. So this is another power, another vibhuti. A yogi who desires to enter another body should meditate upon himself as being situated in that body. As a bumblebee easily goes from one flower to another, a yogi, with the help of his whole body, subtle body, can enter another body through the path of the air. So to enter into the body of another person, a yogi must relinquish his gross body, and with the help of his subtle body, and we know the subtle body is man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. That is a subtle body. Enter that body through the pathways of external air. So detachment from the physical body, which a yogi has, only then the subtle body can enter into somebody else's body. It is something like a bumblebee which travels from one flower to another. The siddhi of entering another body is called parkaya parveshna. Parkaya. Par means another body. One may admire a heroic man or beautiful woman and desire to experience life within their extraordinary material body. One can enter the body of another person by availing himself of the mystic perfection called parkaya, parveshna. However, pure devotees are never attracted to any kind of material body, knowing that even in the topmost planet there is material misery and death. Instead, they remain satisfied on the platform of eternal life. The spiritual air transfers a devotee to Goloka, Vrindavan, where he eternally engages in the Lord's service as a member of his entourage. Okay? So clearly he says that sure, for a yogi there could be a reason to enter, but a pure devotee doesn't even have the need to enter into another body. But sometimes, maybe for the welfare of the society, they might have to do something. So that is like a siddhi, which can be used. The siddhi is there, but not for their own gratification. Okay, so it's a very high level of siddhi. 24. Parshanye अपीड्ये गुदम प्राणम हृद उराकंठ मूर्धसु आरोप्य ब्रह्म रंधनेन ब्रह्म नीतवो सृजेत तनुम. This is verse number 24. To achieve the mystic perfection called swa ichha mritya. Swa ichha means when if you desire to die, you will die. Otherwise, you won't. Swa ichha mritya. A yogi should block his anus with the heel of his foot and then gradually lift the soul along with the life air from the heart to the chest, then to the neck, and finally to the head. Situated within the Brahmarandra, the yogi then gives up his material body and guides the spirit soul to his desired destination. Okay, so it's like a mrityu is in the yogi's hand too, the yogi of this level. One who has attained the mystic perfection of swa ichha mrityu, the ability to die at will, can guide his soul along with the life air to either the impersonal Brahm or to any destination within the material world through the Brahmarandra. And Brahmarandra is in the top of the head, Brahmarandra. By giving up his material body while blocking the anus and the heel of the foot. And that's how we do the Siddhasana also. The heel goes all the way down, pressed that part of our body. Since the practice of giving up the body, as described in this verse, by means of perfection in the practice of Hatha Yoga or Raj Yoga, cannot enable one to surpass the kingdom of mundane existence, it is sensible to accept everything favorable for the practice of Krishna consciousness. If one cultivates Krishna consciousness within his heart while giving up all thoughts of sense gratification, thus detaching himself from the desire for material enjoyment and giving up the propensity for either enjoying or renouncing the fruits of his karma while engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord, he will automatically attain this mystic perfection. So you got to learn how to detach from the lower, only then we can attach to the higher. Verse number 25. Vihirishyana surakride mat stham satvam vibhavyet vimane no patishtanti sattvavriti suristriya. One who desires to enjoy life in the celestial gardens of the demigods should meditate upon the mode of purified goodness, which is situated within me. When he becomes fixed in this meditation, heavenly damsels that are generated from the mode of goodness will approach him, riding in their celestial chariots. One of the mystic perfections available to the yogis enables him to enjoy with the celestial damsels in heaven. These are like apsaras. In order to remain aloof from the propensity of imitating the spirit of sense enjoyment, after seeing sensual activities in a movie or among the lower animals, one's heart must become captivated by the Supreme Lord's Ras Leela pastimes. Even the spirit of enjoyment that celestial women can arouse in the heart of a yogi can be transformed in this way. Anugraha Bhaktanam Manushyanam Deham Astita. So when the Lord assumes a human-like body to show mercy to his devotees, he engages in such pastimes as will attract those who hear about them to become dedicated to him. This transformation is only possible when one has come to an advanced stage of yogic perfection. In that advanced stage, there's no question of imitating the Lord for one's personal sense gratification. Rather, the perfected yogi's only desire is to serve the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. This is an example of an eternal siddhi. यथा संकल्पयेद बुद्धिया यदा व मत परापुमान मयि सत्ये मनोयुञ्जन्स तथा तत् समुपाश्नुते. One who has implicit faith in me and thus concentrates his mind upon me, knowing that my determination is never frustrated, will have his desires fulfilled by the very means he has adopted. If one resolves with determination to attain some particular object, then he should meditate upon the Supreme Lord, whose determination is never foiled. This will enable one to achieve his desired goal. This mystic perfection is called Sankalpa Siddhi. So whatever you desire, that's it, Sankalpa. One should make up his mind to revive his forgotten relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by means of devotional service, which can be executed anywhere by anyone. There are many scriptures that guide one back to home, back to Godhead. Among them are Sankalpa, Kalapa, Dhrum. So these are like a different books he's mentioned over here. And by carefully studying the subjects presented in these books, like Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and Ujjwal Neelamani, one's eternal perfection can be awakened, saving one from the attraction of this illusory material existence, which only end in misery. So there's a warning over here. Okay? We should not run after these siddhis, because ultimately it will be misery in our hand. Verse number 27. Yo vemad bhavam apan ishitur vashituhu puman कुतश्चिन न विहीनयेत तस्य चाज्ञः यथा मम. One who perfects his meditation upon me can imbibe my controlling power. His order, just like mine, can never be thwarted at any time. If a yogi perfects his meditation upon the super soul, he can receive from the Lord the mystic power of being able to control others as well, that like the Lord, his order can never prove futile. The material nature is working under the direction of Supreme Lord. Pure devotees are never diverted from the service of the Supreme Lord. Being tempted by the temporary objects of sense gratification, the orders of such devotees can never be frustrated, just as the orders of the Supreme Lord are never counteracted. Okay? So over here he's showing with the meditation, with the bhakti, the devotion, the oneness of Lord and the devotee. 28. Mad bhaktya shuddha sattvasya yogino dharna vida tasye tre kalikihi buddhi janam mrityu upbrihitam. One who has become purified as a result of rendering devotional service to me, and thus has carefully controlled his mind by the practice of meditation, becomes cognizant of past, present, and future. That is a Trikaldarshi, who can see all these times very clearly. With this understanding, he can witness the appearance and disappearance of all living beings. So higher and higher level of clarity. The Supreme Lord knows past, present, and future. And so a yogi who meditates on the Lord can receive that mystic opulence from the Lord. This is the perfection known as Trikal Gyata Siddhi, which also enables one to know about the birth and the death of all people. And the birth and death is of the body actually. So this Trikal Darshi Gyata has that knowledge. The impersonalists imagine that they have become one with the Lord. But it is the devotees who actually share the Lord's transcendental qualities. Being fully devoted to the Lord, the pure devotees are situated on the same platform as the Lord, a platform that is above the influence of time in terms of past, present, and future. Thus, the pure devotees who are liberated due to being absorbed in the service of the Lord are knowers of past, present, and future, as is the Lord. And that's why they say that Valmiki ji, when he wrote the Ramayana, he knew what the future will be. That future did not happen at that time. And he knew the past also. And of course, the present. Okay? Trikal Darshi. अगण्य है आदिर्भिर न हन्येत मुनेर योग मयाम वपु मद योग शांत चितस्य याद साम उदकम यथा. Just as the body of an aquatic cannot be injured by water. See, just like a fish in the water doesn't get drowned. The body of a peaceful and devoted sage whose spiritual realization has matured by the practice of yoga cannot be injured by fire, the sun, water, poison, and so forth. So by meditating on the Supreme Lord in the pure devotional service, the heart of a peaceful sage becomes situated with the transcendental experience. In that stage of perfection, one attains the siddhi by which his body cannot be injured by the material elements in the form of fire, the sun, water, poison, and so forth. So this Prakriti does not injure the yogi. And there have been many, many examples, like a Prahlad. His body could not be burnt. He could not be hurt by those mad elephants. Mirabai, with that poison, nothing could happen to her. The example of an aquatic is given here. Water cannot harm the body of aquatics. Rather, they enjoy life in their natural element. Similarly, the perfect yogi can easily fend off all attacks from the material elements. Although the material elements cause transformations of gross objects and can affect the nature of subtle existence, the spiritually blissful body of the Lord's devotees are never affected by material conditions. Devotees are never tempted to enjoy the objects of this world in a way that is not related to the service of the Supreme Lord. Okay, it's very important because their whole aim is to serve the Lord. Their personal agenda is gone. Materialists condemn their misfortune when they cannot make material advancement, whereas devotees of the Lord remain joyfully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord.
I will try to call the number I have because I'm want to.
Having given up all desires for material advancement, the example is given that aquatics enjoy living in the water, whereas terrestrials in the bodily concept of life would bring about their destruction if they try to live in the same way. Like the aquatics in water, as long as the Lord's devotees remain situated in their natural element of devotional service. Okay, that is the point he's trying to make over here. Just like for the aquatics, the water is natural. For a devotee, The service to the Lord is natural. So whatever they do, whether they are helping others or whether they are taking rest also, they say that, no, I want to take rest so that I can serve my Lord. So everything they do, that is the main aim is to serve the Lord. They will not become overwhelmed by the currents of material thoughts like the conditioned souls. So conditioned souls means the ordinary people, they get worried. Whether it is a financial difficulty or sometimes it could be a physical ailment, devotee doesn't care. Devotee says, God, if that's how you want to keep me, I'm okay with it, as long as I keep on serving you. Number 30. Madhbhutir abhidhyayan Shrivatsa Shastra Vibhushita Dhvajatap Atra Vyajne Sabhaved Aprajita. A devotee who constantly meditates on my incarnations. Okay, so incarnations, because God comes again and again, according to this Sanatan Dharma philosophy. It's not just only once, many, many times, which are decorated with the mark of Shrivots and hold various weapons in their hands, and which always appear with royal grandeur, cannot be conquered by anyone. So there's always some kind of a symbol on God's body also. And weapons. Don't we see all our incarnations, whether they have carried a trishul or a chakra, Sudarshan chakra, or even a bow and arrow? Always some kind of a weapon. And that really symbolically tells us that God protects the good and get rid of the wicked. That's why God comes again and again. And he declared that in Bhagavad Gita also, very clearly. By meditating on the various incarnations of the Lord, one becomes unconquerable in all respects. This mystic perfection is called Aprajya Siddhi. The Lord's flag, umbrella, chamar, kaustubh gem, and weapons indicate his omnipotency. Those who meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this feature attain the mystic perfection known as Aprajit. All of the mystic perfections obediently come to serve the devotee of the Lord. And this is written in this book by this Thakur. He says, if I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. Because God is everywhere, we don't perceive it because our attention is not towards that. Our attention is only into the Maya. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think that liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of dharma, artha, and kama stand with her. So for a devotee, only thing important is to serve the Lord. Does not run after these opulences or any kind of a powers, no matter how mystic they are. So he says, even the moksha is standing with the folded hands. But I want only you. I want to serve you. I want to love you. That is a devotee's only desire. So let's stop it here and we'll finish this chapter next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnam Eva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.